Well, hey guys, and welcome back to another episode on our Tribulation Soldier COMS YouTube and Facebook. And this should be the final video in this little series I've been doing, sharing about our qualifications for doing the ministry that we are doing. And the hope is that you really kind of get to know us through this, and the hope is you don't get it's not boring. I know in the future we'll do great teachings of all this exciting stuff like prophecy and end time stuff and all the things that sort of go along with that. But for now, this is important. Yeah, but tonight's going to be that sort of final one, I think. So as always, guys, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit notifications. We'll have prayer videos, teaching videos, worship videos, sermon videos, all coming up this year as time goes on. As we keep building this channel. So we just really hope you enjoy what we're producing just now. So just back from Emily's field, working away in there at the moment. We're trying to build, for those of you who don't know, we're trying to build this horse grazing field. We've had to build stables from scratch, and we're doing all those sort of different things. And that's for our Birnie Family YouTube and Facebook, as well as the kids' channels, Birnie Family Fun. But on this channel, this is more the sort of direct Christian stuff, and it comes from our years of experience in the ministry. Now we're branching out and moving into the online, which is exciting, really difficult at times, challenging, disheartening at times, exciting at times. It's just, that's just kind of the way it is. And like I said in a couple of the previous videos, you still feel like you're dangling a bit. It's just feeling your way forward, and that's really what I'm doing at the moment. But yeah, in the last one I shared a very difficult testimony about a situation, something that sort of happened sort of indirectly to us and a few other people as well, and just the reality of what can surround church, and always to look to God, not the men, But strangely enough, the things that can really challenge you and hurt you in the Christian ministry tend to be those things that qualify you too. And Paul the Apostle said that, he explained about the type of things he'd been through just because of the gospel, just because of being a Christian and being in Jesus Christ. But this was part of his qualifications. And if it's good enough for him, then it's good enough for me. But it's not all suffering and hardship and all that. That's just not true, I tend to share quite a lot of things that I've found quite difficult and quite challenging, but that's just to help, just to help people understand the mind of God, how he does things, and so on. And in these videos, I've really tried to share these as though you've never, heard of these things before, which is quite difficult. It's actually quite a difficult thing. But it's also for you Christians out there too. So 20 years of ministry, really, from the time we came back to God in 2002, myself and Sharon, getting our prophetic calling within that 6-month period, and this is where we've ended up, after all that time, through cell church pastoring, youth pastoring, assistant pastoring, home church pastoring, and of course now the online stuff. And I just really wanted to share with you, just to show you how we've been moulded by God. Obviously we believe that, how we've been moulded by God through the path that we've taken and the experiences that we've had. And I tend to look at different phases, of the influence church has had upon you, being a part of a church, where God's worked through you, through other people, and really changed you. And they're quite different phases. I'm still quite surprised that that it wasn't, you'd think it'd just be the same throughout, yet it was different phases for us, and maybe that is just the way God prepares a person for something like this. Again, I'm just feeling my way forward here. But when I first came back to God, I had major problems. Me and Sharon were just a mess. We're split up. We weren't married at the time, obviously. I had major emotional, spiritual problems that really needed sorted, And we came in amongst this church that was hugely spiritual, really dealt in the prophetic and, the real spiritual things of God. But one of the greatest things they did during that time was spiritual counselling. It's a word that we can use for those of you that don't necessarily believe, called deliverance, where God can actually deliver you from the past sins of your life, whether that be alcoholism or whatever it is, God can do that. And of course, healing, physical healing, emotional healing, all that sort of stuff, Very, very exciting time. But for me, very, very challenging, because I'd come back to God as what we call a backslidden Christian. You know, my teenage years, I drifted away, you know, partied all the time, drinking, drugs, all that sort of stuff, and then came back to him in 2002. So I'd taken on a lot of problems, but I knew who God was. You know, the thought of God healing someone wasn't really a big surprise to me. That, you know, it was amazing to see in the flesh, you know, more than once, obviously, but it wasn't a great surprise. It was quite a surprise to Sharon. She was just a brand new Christian. God brought us back together, sorted things out. Later we were married, and you know, we never sort of looked back from them. So during that time, we learnt so much, and seen God work in just the most amazing ways in people's lives. Just so real, you know, just so real. And then we come to this other phase, you know, where we're now youth pastors. We've been set forward in the church, in the body of Christ, as overseers. And of course, this was a position that, you know, we took on, and I was so surprised at how much I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I mean, and I think Sharon, well, there's no think about it, Sharon did too. It was such a tremendous time, you know, really learning how to pastor, how to do that job, you know. And of course, you know, when you're in that position, you don't really just do youth all the time. You know, you have to minister to adult groups as well, preach on Sunday mornings, take care of the church while the senior overseers are away, whether they're on holiday or not well or whatever else, you know. It's a tremendous amount of learning. And one of the great things I think I picked up during that time was that sort of, it's what you call professionalism. You know, when you're doing a Sunday service, there's a lot of different things going on, you know, and you've got to be quite professional. You've got to know what's going on and how things are happening, have it in your mind, the way that you think the morning should go, and all those things, you know. And that only can really come from experience. You know, you have to just learn that stuff. You have to just get up there and do it. But it really made me, which I'm always grateful for the people that were around us during that time, was giving me the ability to hold our own events, like youth events, you know. So we're out there on our own in a sense, you know. We're still obviously part of the assembly, but it's like quite a specific event. And we did numerous of them, you know, really given the trust just to go for it. And you just learned so much, just so much during that time. And of course, after that, you know, life changes, always does. Sharon fell pregnant with Emily, and then fell pregnant with David, and life changed for us in a big way. We moved to a church closer to home, and that's where we were. And you know, during that time, I did do a lot of the pastoring and the ministry from all the things that I'd learned before. But this was far more about teaching and preaching, you know, really putting into practice a lot of the things I'd learned. Well, and some of the biggest stuff was, like I tend to do here, is not use notes. It's just to stand up there and do it. But during that time, it was a very different time, because you still saw the spiritual stuff and you still had the pastoring, but there was this real edge to it of caring for people. Really caring for people, doing the stuff, you know, never mind the great big spiritual stuff that everybody wants to see, like prophecy and visions and all that sort of stuff, but actually helping people, doing the simple stuff. And it really brought me back to my grassroots as a person, I think, because I'd been brought up with a great influence from my Christian grandparents who just lived round the corner from us, and they would treat everybody exactly the same, regardless of your background, your job, your class. I hate the class system, but your class. And that really rubbed off on me, you know. And I just loved the way they just cared for people, and the way people responded to that, you know. They really respected them, you know. It was such a great kind of relationships that got built up, you know. And it was through such simple things. And it was then I sort of realised, I think, in myself, that these simple things were the important things. The visiting people in hospital, visiting people at their house when they're lonely, going and doing the shopping for someone. If someone's just had surgery, it's going around and doing a load of washing for them. You know, all those sort of things. And it was just such a great feel to be back in that, you know. And it's not like it wasn't like that for me before, because we'd still do that, but it was just very sort of detailed. And that was I suppose that's the kind of three phases I look upon, you know, the real spiritual stuff, really grounded, you know, and what God can do, just the spectacular stuff, it has to be said. Even when we're doing the youth, of course we saw the spectacular stuff as well, you know, but there was a different slant of learning in there, you know. And then, of course, the third part again was the assistant pastor role, and obviously into the home church role, you know, where you really got back to that. And, you know, that's a good place to be. Let me tell you, it's a really, really good place to be. And during that time, you know, you do have kind of life-changing moments, you know. And I know that just anyone in society can have epiphanies and various things like that. But God tends to time it very, very well, and it's very, very specific to make a real mark on you, you know. And I always explain it like it hits your mind like a smart bomb. You know, it doesn't damage everything round about. It just hits this area that changes you, you know. And you have those moments, quite a few, but there are some real major ones. And a lot of these aren't through, like, we got the prophecy over our lives, that this is what we're called to do and so on. But these were a bit more spectacular, actually. And I have to say that because of the way that it made me change and become a real different person, you know. Still me. My character changed. And one of the first times this really happened for me in that first kind of phase was, you know, driving to church, and, you know, I'm driving, and people in the car that we've picked up, and we're heading off, and we're having a laugh and a joke and all that sort of stuff, you know. And I pulled in to pick up this other person, and as I pulled the car up, it was the Land Rover actually, so I've had it for years. I pulled up outside a women's rescue centre, and obviously there's normal apartments round about and houses and all that sort of things. But the way I'd positioned the car, and I just looked, and there was this little boy, and he had a black bag full of just this stuff, clothes and a couple of toys and bits and pieces. And I could see a woman, and I could see a support worker. And as I was looking, he looked at me, and I thought to myself, man alive, what has happened there? And of course we knew it was a women's refuge, so, you know, you can read into it quite easily. But here I saw this little guy, and he had his black bag. You know, we were all lovely and warm in the car. Son had been playing his PlayStation that morning, us doing family stuff. And there's just this wee boy standing in front of the bonnet of the car, you know? And it's just moments like that. I drove to church. I sat down, I couldn't get him out of my head at all. You know, this wee lad with his black bag, a black rubbish bag, a black plastic bag, just full of his little bits and pieces, you know. And worship started in the morning, and I didn't just cry, I wept. And I went from weeping to sobbing. I was absolutely broken at the sight of this wee guy. And it's that feeling inside of, we've got to do something. That we've got to do something. You know, that was the kind of urgency that came up within. And for me, it was just that contrast between the life I was living, which is okay, you know, but just seeing that different side of things, you know. And that was a major, major changing moment for me. Another came in my first round of hospitals way back in the 2005 or 6, I think it was at the time. And, you know, we'd really grown as Christians, we'd really moved forward, things were great. But obviously, I fell ill with ulcerative colitis, and, you know, I had to get my large bowel removed, had to go back and get my rectal stump removed, and that's that gone. I've got a colostomy bag now. But there was one night, and I was recovering from that actual surgery, and it was a Friday night, and one of the issues, it's an issue I've always kind of felt, but is that on Friday and Saturday night, if there was drunks taken into A&E for whatever reason, they'd take them up to the ward, you know, and you're recovering from major surgery. And the reason you feel so, sort of have such an issue towards that is because you feel so vulnerable. You've got no strength, you can't move, and these drunks are kicking off, you know. If I was okay and I'd be fine, I'd help her do something or whatever, you know, but I couldn't move. And anyway, the next day Sharon came in, and I heard the guy getting wheeled through, and he was going to get put in this bed across us. And I turned to Sharon and I said, I hope they don't put that guy next to me. My eyes dropped, and I looked at myself and I thought, what have I become? I was absolutely disgusted with myself that I would say that about that guy, the way that I'd been taught, and the way I've been brought up. I don't want him next to us because he smelt a drink. Man alive, that motor, and it rocks you, but it's a good rock. You want to feel it. You think, man alive, what have I become? First 2 or 3 years of being a Christian. And you know something, after that, God pounded it into me, and I'm just so glad that he did, you know. That guy had lost his wife 9 years beforehand from cancer, and he was drinking himself stupid because he couldn't handle that. And I'll tell you, that guy came from the islands, you know, the west coast of Scotland, out in the Isles. Very respectful guy. And then one day my mum came in to see us, and he came across to introduce himself, and he humbled himself so much. Big, strong guy, bigger muscles than I had at the time, I'll tell you. And he was so respectful towards my mother. He took his hand like this and went like that to her. I'm still not sure what that means, so I'll have to check. But he went like this to her, and he put out his hand and he shook her hand and told him. And obviously I ended up speaking to this guy and talking to him a lot and so on after that. But it was that moment. I hope they don't put him next to me. Dear Lord, I could have wrung my own neck. That's how God changes it. That's how God moves you forward. And it's not something you don't like. It's not something you're being forced to do. You want it. You want to be different. It's just such an amazing moment. And the third, I'm just wanting to share just some of many moments, but just the sort of real big ones for me, you know. And I'm always trying to be a little bit vague, you know, because testimonies like this involve other people, and it's not very fair just to share about these situations. Most of them I get permission for anyway, so it's absolutely fine. But this one involved a member of the youth group, and it was after a youth group one night, and we did a great service. We always do. We always had that amazing worship by this lovely kids that could play guitar, sing, play drums, bass guitar. You know, we had this amazing worship in our own youth church. And there'd be teaching from me and ministry, and we'd chat with the kids and all that sort of stuff. But at the end, there'd be various kids I'd need to take home. Sharon might have had her car and taken some kids home, and other people coming to pick up kids. And obviously just mucking about in the car park, having a bit of fun, you know. And one girl was with our friend, and there was a bit of a commotion going on, so I headed across and said, you know, what's going on? And she says, oh, such and such, can't obviously say the name, such and such doesn't have a place to sleep tonight. And I was like, hold on, such and such is 13 years old. What do you mean she doesn't got a place to stay tonight? Well, she's tried to phone her dad doesn't want her. Tried to phone her mum doesn't want her. She's tried to phone her grandma, and grandma doesn't want her. I don't think I've ever felt as angry in my life. And I've been angry many times. I was so spitting nails angry. I was like, do you even realise how great a kid this is? Have you got any idea how amazing this kid is? And you don't want her. All of you are saying you don't want her tonight. Man alive. Anyway, our best mate, she went away home to her house for that particular night, and away they went. But I think for me, it was that moment, you know, it was just that moment of anger, real anger, because this is one of my youth kids. My youth kids, and there was nothing I could do. Quite rightly so. In the UK, we are very strict, very, very strict child protection laws, which is absolutely brilliant. So me and Sharon couldn't just say, "Oh, come live with us." You can't do that. You want to, but you can't. You know, it's just something you just can't do. You know, we would have found her a place to stay that night, of course, but you know, our best mate rocked up, and so did our mum and dad, and that was awesome, you know. But it left a lasting impression on us. It was the thing that drove us, that we thought, you know, it would be so great to have a children's home, you know, just to be able to, you know, do something about that, you know. And in many ways, guys, you know, the three sort of situations I've shared tonight, they remain with me very strongly, just like it was yesterday. And it's shaped who I am. It's how God shaped my character, my mindset, Sharon's mindset. And he does the same for every other Christian. And if you're watching this, you don't necessarily believe he does the same thing to you. It's a wonderful terrible feeling, because it's such raw emotion that just so deep, so deep that it cuts you, you know. And those three were different situations. First one was pity, I suppose, you know, the real pity towards this kid. You know, we're a church, we can help, we can do something, sort of thing. The second time, disgusted with myself. I feel almost sick thinking about it, hating the fact that I could have been that person that would look down on someone else. Dear Lord, I hope I don't do it today. I really don't. And of course, the third one was love, righteous anger, where you want to spin the tables over in the temple, you know, and you just want to let loose and get really angry. And that's what it was like. That anger remains in me today, because you see so many situations in the same different times, same situations, you know, and got to do something about it, you know. And that's a hard thing. That's a hard thing when you want to do something about something but you can't do it. And that's what shaped us. Sharon's had the same type of thing. And like I said, guys, there's many other moments like that over the course. They were very, very strong. And I obviously believe in prophecy, and I've had visions and various different things, you know. They're all such exciting stuff. And I'll share so many great stories, you know, about all those different accounts of experiences of God and all those sort of things, you know. Seeing people healed in front of my face. The healings, the prophecy, the visions really don't quite compare to that three experiences that I had, I have to say. They were so deep, so tremendously deep. Unbelievable. Absolutely amazing how God can change you, you know. 2002 ruined my life, stuck with drink and drugs and, you know, infidelity and just all sorts of stuff, the things that went along with that, you know, it's an absolute mess, you know. God turning your life around, changing things, it's just tremendous. And, you know, again, if you're watching this and you don't necessarily believe, you guys Christians out there know this is the kind of stories we all have. This is the type of thing that God does. And I'm so grateful for it, you know. I just feel like it's a scary feeling thinking I could have become a person who didn't care or looked down on other people. And I'm so glad that's not me, you know. And I just always hope I never come across as that, you know. Because without God, I'd be dead just now, you know. I'd be a raging alcoholic, or, you know, just who knows where I'd be. But instead, I'm sitting here in my kitchen. The two kids are upstairs fast asleep. Sharon's falling asleep as we speak. The wee dog's lying through there, you know. And how did we get here? You know, how did we get here? How did God bring us here from where we were? So again, guys, that's what's influenced myself and Sharon, you know, over the years. That and many other moments, many other experiences, all the training, all the bits and pieces that go along with it. That shaped us. So all those things we try to take to the table, obviously, you know, it's transferring. This is what it's all about when it comes to the online ministry. It's transferring all these things that you've learned, the experiences, all these things, and you translate them from yourself here in our town and get it online. That's the challenge, you know, to get all this stuff across. And of course, you're always hoping it's going to really help and touch lives and stuff like that. You know, that's what you want. So quite big things for us as pastors, as it were, you know. For myself, used to be still am, you know, I love doctrine, you know. And for those of you who don't know, it's like the teachings of the Word of God, where you employ all the different methods of scripture interpretation, you know, book, chapter and verse, and all the sort of different things that go along with that, you know, and breaking things down, you know, looking in the original Greek text and the original Hebrew texts and stuff from the Old Testament and the New Testament and stuff like that, you know. I mean, I love all that. Many people don't, it's not their thing. But my job is to make that stuff really, really simple and share it. That's really what it's all about. That I put in a tremendous amount of hard work so that a person watching doesn't have to. They can just get it from God, you know. And of course, guys, you know, one of the things I'm having to learn as I'm moved from local church to this is that when I pastored before, I was always taught so well, and I kept the same mindset all the way through. was that I wasn't a leader. That's not who I am. And I'm not the one that's got to make the difference in this place. When I come to church and preach and teach, it is God that's got to do it. So instead of being a leader, and I don't really like that word anyway, but I was there to oversee the work of God's Spirit. So I believe I had something laid in my heart to preach and teach, whether it's been 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, who knows, just go with it, And, in that room, you just see reactions, you can feel the Spirit, you can see different things happening. It's really special, when you really stop trying to do it yourself and really look at God. What is God doing? Never mind about me, I'm just up here. I'm a speaker, I'm not the stereo or the CD player, I'm just a speaker. What's God doing, But taking that online is a little bit different, because obviously, maybe when we do live stuff, obviously. But I always want to be led by God. All the different teachings, all the different sermons, I really want all that to shine through, is that I'm being led, and that's what I really want to be. And many, if not all, genuine pastors out there are doing the same thing. They want to be led. They want to be sharing. If you're listening to us that day, there's got to be something for you. It really has got to be something for you. But my belief, of course, is as well, there's great things, the Old Testament stuff and all the rest of it. But guys, one of the big teachings I push is the basic teachings, the milk of the word. In my mind, I think, well, it's pointless trying to master the complicated stuff if you can't understand the simple stuff. And not only understand it, but experience it. The most important teachings in the Word of God are called the milk of the Word, about His grace, about His sacrifice, about righteousness, and all those different things that are a part of the milk of the Word. And again, back to influences, a lovely older guy called Derek Prince, absolutely fantastic with doctrine, and I listened to him a lot in my early times as a Christian. And he said something one day, and he said, after 50 years of counselling Christians, 50 years this guy had been doing this, he found that there was one basic deficiency. They had never laid a strong scriptural foundation, and they could never build a stable, successful Christian life. Now that might not mean quite a lot to you at the moment, but see, when that hit me, it was like, yeah, unbelievable, yeah. What is the point of me teaching all these higher things and preaching all these things if people don't have it already? So my big thing, my huge thing, guys, is building that foundation. Foundation's got to be deep enough, wide enough, of the correct mix before you can build a building. If that foundation's faulty, unlevel, the house will start to show cracks in time. And if it's no good, it'll just collapse. Absolutely collapse into a heap. Foundation to a Christian life is absolutely, unbelievably essential. It's got to happen. Thankfully, I've shared those teachings already. They're called the Christian Back to Basics, or the first principles of the oracles of God. And that is every single basic teaching any Christian needs to move forward, a person. You give your heart to Jesus, these are the teachings for you. And that will always be me. All the other teachings about prophecy, tongues, end time stuff, it's all secondary to that. Because the milk of the word is Jesus Christ himself and God, giving you that foundation to have that life with him, so that you will not need to follow a man like me, you're able to follow God. And that's one of the things that I always strive to do, in the first 2 or 3 years of a Christian's life. Of course, you've got to be that father figure and that help and counsel and do all those things. But in me and many other pastors like me, what we're trying to do is build a person up to that point where they've got their own relationship with God. They've got their own. They can go home with him. They don't need you as such, You've got that time, of course, the teaching, the experiences, the counselling, of course. That's what I live for. I so want people just to have their own relationship with Jesus Christ, a real one that they can experience, can have confidence in. And that will always be the case. I don't think I'll ever change from that. One of the things that I really like saying is that the peak, the chief A+ revelation of God's word is Jesus Christ on the cross, dying on the cross. A person putting their faith in that. And if anyone's done that as a Christian, you already have, now really listen, you already have the greatest revelation the Word of God has to offer. You've already got an A+. You've already learnt the big one. It's what everything in the Old Testament was leading up to. Jesus on the cross. And the New Testament is a result of everything that happened after that. As a Christian, you've already got it. If you're watching, you may not necessarily believe. That's my job to point you that way, you know. But I've certainly found, you know, moving from local church pastor into online and that, you know, it's took a long time, but you know, you get the people that you know and you fellowship with just by Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp and all that, you know, you still kind of want to see them face to face. And the thing I really struggle with going forward in this ministry is that I can't see you, you know, that I can't help you, you know, I can't be there to help you specifically, you know, to be there from Monday to Friday, be your pastor and all that. I find that really, really difficult, you know. And of course, my influence always is to be part of a tremendously good local church, you know, people that love you and will take care of you and all those sort of things. But now I want to take care of you, you know, it's just the way that it is. It's just the way God's kind of molded me to be. So it's hard. It's hard not being there. And I think the thing that I'm going forward with is trying to believe is that if I just do what I'm called to do each and every week, whether it be prayers, teachings or sermons, and I do that in the leading of God, then that has to help, you know. That has to make the difference. And of course, guys, it's not only that. I need to upload a lot of legacy teachings, as I call it, a lot of the basic stuff that people you know, need to know. You know, you can look through the playlists on our channel and just have a look at them, and but you know, I'll load up loads of them. You know, generally it would be a led thing. For example, just at the moment, let's just go for just right now. It's not a really difficult thing to see. It's not a difficult thing to be led by, but people all over the world were affected horrifically by the coronavirus, you know, just like never before. I've never seen that in my lifetime and might never see it again. That was some situation, and I don't like talking about it because, you know, we've all had our thing with that, and I don't want our channel filled with COVID this and COVID that, but it happened. And then after that, of course, we've had the war in Ukraine, cost of living's through the roof. You know, at the moment we're still there. Gas and electricity costs about 4 times as much at the moment, and all that sort of things. And people have been through the ringer. Yeah, people in general, just people have been through the ringer. And I know that there's a lot of people hurt out there. I know there's a lot of people who are going to need healing and restoration, help moving past various things, fresh starts. That is the way the world is at the moment. You know, and of course, as a pastor, you see that, you realise that you've got to have that as a string in your bow as you go forward, you know. But I've never seen people as damaged as I've seen them before. This has been, last 3 years, been pretty horrific for a lot of people, you know. And you know, some people ask, you know, does God send these things? That's another story altogether. I don't think He sends them, but He certainly uses them. And the hope is that many people will look to Jesus. They'll see that this world is shifting sands. There's nothing in this world that's solid, you know. But when you've got Jesus, it doesn't matter what's happening. You can stand upon a rock all the time, every time. But saying that, that's the easy thing. Leading a person to that point, taking them forward, counselling them, helping them get past all these different things, that's the job, that's the work. Easily said, very, very different when you've actually got to do the job. And I feel that, you know, just at the stage that we're at, that might be where many of you are, maybe many of you are feeling. And absolutely, I say it over and over again, guys, you know, Jesus is the answer. You always will be. And if you look to that and see that you think it's really difficult to comprehend or understand, well, that's fine. That's my job to make it simple for you. So yeah, hopefully I've shown you a bit of my heart. You know, it's just who I am. I tend to try and wear my heart on my sleeve. I don't tend to take much rubbish from anyone, and I just try to do my best, you know, to help people. That's what I want to do, and that's what I want to be, you know. Absolutely love preaching and teaching. Just absolutely love it. It's just the way that it is, you know. Some people want to be actresses or actors or Formula One drivers. Preaching, teaching, that's me. And the hope is what we've built, you know, with the Birnie family stuff as well, you know, the motorbike vlogs, the Scottish castle tours and DIY and all that sort of different things, is, you know, that you'll have something really to surround you as well, you know. That's what the big hope is. But at the minute, guys, it has to be said that, you know, I am still feeling my way forward. I don't know what this is really going to be like. I don't know when it's actually going to happen or anything like that. I've just got to feel my way forward. Being led as I always try to be. As per usual, God gives you bits of the story as you go along, but it's a walk of faith, you know. You've got to really dig deep sometimes. And the hope is that after 20 years, hopefully God's built me up for it, you know. That's what I want to do. I just want to, you know, you just want to help. I wish you could, you know, hopefully just through the experiences that I've shown how God's really moulded my character, that I could have turned into a right moron. I mean, really. But God steps in and changes you, you know. He changes your character, he changes your mindset. And you get into that place where you're angry and you want to help. It's difficult when you feel like you can't do something and various things like that, you know. And I just feel through this maybe I'll be able to do something about it. This video just took on a bit of a different dimension, I have to say. It's not really the way I thought it would sort of turn out, but again, that's the way to do it, you know. It's to be led by God, guys. Just, he always surprises me, and I'm surprised tonight. I'm really surprised, you know. I was thinking about what we're going to do, but see, sharing those experiences again, I haven't felt like that sharp for a little while now, you know. That's how deep it is, you know. It's just amazing how God can change you. And as I always say, guys, it doesn't matter what you've done. It really doesn't matter what you've done. You truly repent, you'll be forgiven. That's what it's all about. And you can lead in a great and exciting life with God. There's no question about it. Right, I better stop there before I get really hyper. It kind of depends doing sermons and stuff. I can't start shouting, and it just, you know, it's God's passion. You know, it's this, you know, I'd hate to be standing up there going, you know, this is the scriptures, you know, you come on, you know, kick things over and make a noise, you know. The passion, absolutely fantastic, you know. It's tremendous. Yeah, so guys, that's that. I think it's 8 videos. I think this has been in the Qualifications series. One before it, 10 testimonies, kind of the more major things that sort of happened as God brought myself and Sharon forward, you know. So if you really want to get to know us as Christians, as pastors, that's where to see. Want to get to know us as a family and our kids, and goodness me, the animals and all the different things we do, like fishing and caravanning and wild camping and all those sorts of different things, you know. Check out the Birnie Family channels. And of course you've got kids, Birnie Family Fun, Birnie Family Fun Shorty Shorts, and Birnie Family Fun Gaming. And of course, I think I've shared this before, I'll share much more about it again, you know, that the larger part of this ministry, guys, is to help rural and remote ministries around the world with financial support and, you know, spiritual support, emotional support. Places like India, Pakistan, been around these guys that we have so far for like 5 years, you know. They're amazing ministries in these places. Photos, the videos, they will really touch your heart, you know. So that's another part of all of this that, you know, we've really got to push with. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you've listened to me all the way through, well done, you know. As always, please don't forget to like, subscribe and hit notifications. I'll be sharing a few videos coming up. We've got these kind of prayer videos that I like to do, meditation videos. You can just be quiet with God and nature and stuff like that, you know. Don't worry, it's not new agey or anything like that, you know, it's God's creation. But real prayer videos, really get back into some sermons, you know. I like doing them out in the garage. You know, it's just what I really enjoy, and I always hope that you guys would really enjoy it as well. But for now, thanks again, guys, and God bless you.